Good morning. You know, the topic of this talk today is, are we there yet? And Storm, you're there, man. After a couple of years, this is so awesome to see you. Great to see you. So are we there yet? Well, what does that mean? Am I there yet? How do I know? Are you there yet? How do you know? You know, it's a spiritual question, and in the world of ministers and practitioners, when somebody questions, are you there yet? It's usually, are you enlightened? I don't even know if I'm halfway there yet. But the important thing is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because the truth is our higher self demands nothing of us. We don't have to become enlightened. We don't have to prove ourselves to God. We're already an extension of the highest and best of infinite intelligence creating us all. So it's the ego that questions us, isn't it? It's the ego that says if you're not constantly striving to improve, who in the heck are you anyway? You're unworthy, which is totally untrue. We've been using Wayne Dyer's book, Your Sacred Self, these few months, and he shares a lot about the life of striving that he had for so long. Striving, to be more, to be more, to be more. And he identifies some typical behaviors that go with that. So I thought I would share those with you because when we're on that treadmill of striving, sometimes it takes a whap upside of the head to make us realize what we're doing. Are we striving because it's a job that we need to do? We want to do better, we want to get promoted? Or are we striving too hard in a job? Or are we striving to show off with cars and fancy clothes? Or are we striving to do things quickly? Are we striving so hard because we're worried and we have anxiety about the world? Do we assign a price tag to what we do? Sometimes that's where I get caught because I want to do it perfectly. Yeah, right. Or do we find fault with everyone? Because nobody's as good as us. That's the ego talking. Do we have to be validated by other people? This is the striving energy that he's talking about. And another striving energy is we don't have time to spend alone by ourselves in contemplation. So I know when any of these show up in my life, it's time to take a break. And I can release the stress through meditation, through contemplation. And when I back off and start to pace myself, all of a sudden I feel more centered and all of a sudden I'm more productive because I'm thinking with the energy of love. I'm thinking with the energy of God. For years I worked in the pulp and paper industry, and that was a high stress, high striving business. And it took a while to connect the dots that every time I took a few days off, I would get really sick. My body was so tired from striving. The only way it could tell me to slow down was to get sick. And finally, I realized that. It took being in the hospital a couple of times, getting an MRI, because I was so out of it. So Dyer is right. When we lighten up and get back in balance, we feel more vibrant. And I think that's how I feel a lot these days, a lot more. And I really have projects to do, but they're not driving me. I'm not striving to get them done, check them off the checklist. And I feel fully supported by the universe in this, and I'm overflowing with positive energy. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to slow down. And what Dyer calls this is going from striving to arriving. Striving to arriving. Now, our higher self doesn't want us to get lazy, of course. We have things on our mission as human beings. But at the same time, it's important to realize the power of arriving of this place. And he describes two aspects of arriving. One is to be able to be in the present moment without the ego mind chasing us into the future or chasing us into the past. To be able to sit and be in the present moment. That's arriving, centering your God self. We're not focused on the past or the future. And the second part of arriving is being love. Now, Dyer says when the time comes that we move on to our next experience as a soul, we will not be on trial by God. Did you do enough in this lifetime? Because our mission is very simple: to be and express love. It's very simple. We do that in the present moment, to be and express love in every moment. That's our mission. Well, I opened this new book yesterday that Damien quoted from. It's called The Power of Love by Fran Grace. And I was really happy. Every chapter, she focuses on love, but then she picks a different person she admires in the world and tells how they express love. So it's really different. And I was happy to see that one of her chapters is on Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote Power versus Force. Great book. Hawkins wrote that spiritual practices done with sincerity have a beneficial effect. The healing effect comes from the inner purity of heart and the intention of the energy field, such as love. Now, Hawkins is a brilliant man, and he drew a map of consciousness, and he showed the arc of our spiritual evolution, where the base level is more shame and self-hatred. And as we experience a rise in our consciousness, awareness of our divinity, we get to that place of more powerful love. The outer form is not so much, it's the inner form. And so when we express love, it can be as simple as a smile or a random act of kindness. It's not how much we do, but what we're putting into it. And that's what Hawkins says helps raise our level of consciousness into that sublime, loving state. Now, every morning when I drive into town, I set my intention for the day. And 2 mornings a week, you may not know, but I serve as a chaplain at a local crisis center for just a couple hours, 2 mornings a week. And they have a space for me, and people can come in and get a prayer or just sit and talk. And I set up a little chaplain library, lending library. And it's so fun to go in and see what books are gone, what books are open laying on tables, and what books people want to talk to me about. So it's really fun. And the other day, it was so cute. One of their clients offered me one of these shopping bags from Holiday. They're really nice bags. And I said, well, thank you very much. And she said, use it to bring more books. I thought that was the cutest thing, that what have I done other than bring my favorite loving books? And I didn't worry about whether they like them or not. But they're really getting a lot out of them. So I find that very interesting. So that's one of my ways of bringing love. So Dyer also offers some suggestions to succeed in our mission of love. And the first one is experience nothingness. That's that place where we're not striving. We're just experiencing nothingness. And that's the feeling of peace that we have when we've arrived at total comfort with ourselves in our life. If we can sit and listen in that space of nothingness, what we end up getting is divine intuition. We start getting ideas. We start getting new feelings about the excitement of being a human being. You know, we came out of nothingness into form. So nothingness is part of our base creation. As I was working on this talk, I just sat back and I had this great thought about a painter. Is Sharia Wyndham here? No, she's our watercolor person. Here is this painter in a big, beautiful gown, long hair, and just kind of up in the sky, and she's got this palette of every color in the universe. And she takes her brush and she just flings the paint, and a million stars appear. And then she takes a wide brush and she goes across the ethers and creates galaxies like the Milky Way. And then takes a fine point brush and creates humanity. 1 billion people, everyone different. Do you ever think of that? Different noses, different eyes, different teeth, different hands. when I think of that, it's so hard to grasp, really, the infinite variety in life. It was such a great visualization. I'm hoping I'll meet someone that can paint that someday. It was really good because out of a paintbrush or out of the mind of God came everything. Even our different toes, you know? Our toes are different. Everything's different. Someone came in the office this week and she had a beautiful sweatshirt on. And I was complimenting her on her sweatshirt. I said, "That is gorgeous." And it instantly brought a memory to mind. I was reminded in the early 80s, that's 40 years ago. I was living on Bainbridge Island, west of Seattle. And at that time in the fashion world, almost all sweatshirts and sweatpants were made in gray. Almost all. Gray. There was an agriculture supply store on the island in a little bay called Bay Hay and Feed. A great little place. Had all the hay and everything for agriculture and for farming, but they also had a great gift shop with things related to agriculture and animals, farm animals. One day, all of a sudden, out of nothingness, they had an idea. Sweatshirts in pastel colors. Never had been done before. So they put their little Bay Hay and Feed on here, and then on each sweatshirt, they would pick a farm animal like a sheep, and they put a little sheep on there. And then on the back, they would put 50 sheep, all lined up in rows. So if you wanted ducks, you'd have a duck and 50 ducks on your back. If you wanted horses, anyway, you get the idea. I mean, radical, 40 years ago, extremely radical. And not only did they have the colors, they had all these animals. You could get ducks, you could get pigs. Somebody might want a pig on their shirt. But I can't tell you how many people I took there, and they went crazy over these shirts. Even my mother, she wanted a horse. And so it finally, I think, reached Seattle, and fashion designers went, sweatshirts don't have to be gray, oh my God. And of course, color exploded around the world. Well, yesterday I checked the website. They're still in business, Bay Hay and Feed, and they have a little side story about these shirts when they created them. And they said they got thousands of photographs from people wearing the Bay Hay shirts from around the world. So it was a really landmark decision that came out of nothingness. I was just so tickled with that. So Dyer's second suggestion on how to shift from striving to arriving is to surrender. You know, the ego does not want to surrender. It wants to be in the driver's seat. It wants to stay attached to what happened in the past and what it's dreaming about in the future. But we can surrender the belief that the past has to drive us today. We can surrender that. Now, don't get me wrong, I remember my 55 Chevy. What a fabulous car. But it would be totally impractical today because it was monstrously heavy, huge car, pitiful mileage. But when you drove it, you felt just fabulous. It was a great car. So it's the same. We can honor our sacred self, who's the real driver of our life. And we can surrender to the present moment because you know what? The sacred self is flashing lights, like turn left, turn right, flashing these lights from our driving car, flashing these lights, hoping we'll pay attention. Return to the present moment. Return to love. So there's something bigger to be aware of. What is driving us? It is the past or a worry about the future. Or are we letting our sacred self help drive us? It's as simple as a gray sweatshirt now being a beautiful array of colors with rows of sheep on the back. I think that simplicity of that just always amazes me. But Dyer says it's really like a boat in water. So you're going along in this little boat, you're going along the water, and you have these little waves behind. They're symbols of the past. because eventually they dissipate, they go away. Who's driving that boat? The driver. The driver. So the driver is in the present moment. And the energy the driver puts on this boat depends on where it will go. Whether it stays in one place for a long time, whether the waves dissipate and go away, or whether you arrive at your destination. So life's really like that. We are in the driver's seat. And if we're in a little boat going along and it kind of sputters and we get a little nervous, the best thing we can say to ourselves is, oh, so that's my challenge. So that's my challenge. Stay in the present moment. So that's my challenge. And that's when the good ideas come, the good ideas. Dyer's third point in going from striving to arriving is acceptance. Accepting what is. You know, if we refuse to be distressed over things because they simply are the way they are, it's a relief. It's a real relief. I'm sure you've heard the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So acceptance doesn't mean endorsing something. It refers to that state of mind, that state of peace, where we know the difference between things we can change, things we can't, and when to just accept them. When we accept things we can't change, there's this internal stress that just goes away. Just goes away. So I'd encourage you, if things around the world are distressing you, so that's my challenge, to accept what I can't change. So this morning in the newspaper, I cut out the little article that says, who are your representatives, senators, congressmen, et cetera, because I thought, I may not be able to change it, but I can speak up. So that's my way of doing things. Letters. It's also one of the most important things we learn as ministers and practitioners. Because when you come to any of us and there's an issue and we listen, sometimes people feel we're not being sympathetic enough or compassionate enough. But we're looking at it from the serenity point of view. Is this something I can change in you? Is this something you can change with the help of prayer? Or is this something that we just have to say, and so that's my challenge? William Blake referred to this when he said, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, infinite. And there's a Zen saying that goes like this: if you do understand, things are just the way they are. If you don't understand, things are just the way they are. I love that. And so fourth on his list to go from striving to arriving is to be in awe at times, to just be at awe. Like right now when the flowers are blooming and all the daffodils are coming up and the grass is so green it's almost fluorescent. I feel amazed at that at times, how nature can be so gorgeous. How a little redwood seed can grow up into a redwood tree. It's amazing. And so by paying attention to miracles, I call them a miracle, but the miracle is also our bodies. How many millions of cells in our bodies are cooperating together every moment of every day, and we don't have to drive them, we don't have to talk to them, we just have to love them. Let them do what they do. To me, I am in awe of that, how the infinite intelligence of the universe created all of us, and we're all so different. And the last thing on the list is patience. Do you know when you get impatient? Yeah, I know when I get impatient. On the highway when there's construction and cars and trucks, and I thought I had enough time, and anyway, so the ego wants us to keep going. The ego loves that action. But we need patience to be able to meditate, which is one of the challenges when people first start meditating is, wow, I want to hurry up and get it done. So connecting with our sacred self is very important. Every morning, we live on a lake in Lake California, and I sit at the table and I'll take 20 minutes to a half hour just looking at the lake and Mount Lassen. Nothing going on in my mind, just nothing. And it really lifts my spirit so that when I do come here in the morning to the center or to the crisis center, if there's not a lot of traffic problems, I have a real sense of patience and inner peace. My mantra is, I'm on time every time. Okay, world, get used to that. I'm on time every time. And later in the day, I have a date with Paul. Every day, we have a date at 4 o'clock. And we play cards, and we listen to country music, and we share what we did during the day, and then we relax, unless I've won too many of those card games. It's amazing how defensive we can get when we want to win that hand. It's just kind of funny. But that date is my anchor, because I could spend 24 hours a day here, there's no doubt, and I would still have more to do. But that's my anchor, to go home and just be in love, be patient, be kind. It's a magical time. So there's a lot of ways we can find that space of arriving and feeling love and peace. And I remember Dr. Andrea, she used to feel so busy. And she'd get all these ideas, and finally she said, some days I have so many ideas, I have to sit down and let them pass. That's good words, good words. We all want to do more, but sometimes just sitting down and letting it pass is what we need to feel like we've arrived at control over our lives and our spiritual path. Another way is to turn it all over to our sacred self, whatever it is that's grabbing our attention right now, or to sit down. Here we can walk out to the meditation pavilion for 15 minutes. It's immensely helpful. Or we can take a walk around the beautiful grounds. There are many ways to arrive. So am I here yet? Am I enlightened? I don't think I would call it that. But Yogananda offered this advice. Seek spiritual riches within, because what you are is much greater than anyone or anything else you have ever yearned for. And Wayne Dyer wrote, you're never going to get it all because you already have it all. And that's when I say, so that's my challenge, to recognize that. So let's recognize that in a prayer. It's so funny, we have to stop and recognize how blessed we are. Oh, and I know this truth for you and for me, that when we take time to just look at nature, look at the sky, sit in the beautiful place of our home, in that perfect place, we are so blessed. We are blessed with not only the awareness of who we are as soul, as spirit in action. We are blessed by knowing that we've been individually created by the most intelligent God in the universe. We are that special. And so the striving energy that says we don't have it yet can be turned into arriving energy, that we know we have it. We are fully supported by the universe in anything that we want to do. We can arrive and still have projects and ideas and things we want to do, but we don't have to do them out of a sense of, I'm not enough. So today I accept this knowledge for everyone here. We are enough. We have arrived in every moment, when we're in the present moment and when we're giving and receiving love, the most powerful energy in the world. In gratitude, I just let every cell in my body feel that love, feel that energy, feel that peace, and know it's ours at any moment. So So I release these words to the law that helps remind us, here's where we can be. Here's where we can arrive at any moment. And I let it be now. And so it is. Thank you.